is a brilliant platform for people to have a voice.
I was the first ever blind person to appear on a Pan-Zen ad to be a model. It wasn't just tokenism. There's $8 trillion in the purple pound, which means that there's a lot of money that is overlooked, and I want to target that audience. Hi, my name is Lucy Edwards. My pronouns are she, her, and my audio description today is I am a white lady with ginger, long red hair. I have a nude top on and a stripy zebra skirt, and we're here to talk about purposeful advertising today.
Hello, I'm Helen Rhodes. I am about 5'6", white woman. My pronouns are she and her. Today I am wearing a white top with some black drawings of like a woman on a trapeze and some horses, and I think there's an elephant on there as well, and some black trousers. And I'm excited to be here talking to Lucy about purposeful advertising. So Lucy, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your background as a content creator, a broadcaster, and a disability activist?
Sure. So I started creating content back on TikTok in 2020 in the pandemic. I've been doing it since 2014, but my background is in journalism. So I have trained as a traditional broadcast media journalist, and then I kind of went freelance, and in the pandemic started uploading loads of learn on TikTok videos all about how I do things as a blind person, and then my personal brand was created, and I think that is the core of me. I work with brands and organizations every single day, telling them what to do, consulting with them about how to make accessible content online, but also broadcasting on traditional forms of telly as well. What about you, Helen?
Oh, wow. I feel like I should have gone first because that's quite a hard thing to follow up. But I work in advertising, so I'm the executive creative director of BBH, and I've been there for about 3 years. Before I worked there, I was the ECD at BBC Creative, so which I think we've that in common. We both worked at the BBC for a bit. So BBC Creative is the in-house ad agency of the BBC that does all the the advertising for everything the BBC makes. And then before that, I worked in America for 6 years at an ad agency, Wyden and Kennedy in Portland. I had 3 kids when I was out there. And then before that, I worked at various ad agencies in London. So, been in the advertising industry for about 20 or so years. Been a part of a lot of campaigns that I'm very proud of. But I'm also very proud of starting up the Barn at BBH, which is a creative incubator program that's all about expanding the pool of diverse talent coming into advertising. Looking at advertising, it's not the most diverse place. There's a lot of the same kind of people, and I think one of those barriers is the courses to get into advertising. You have to pay for them. There's lots of barriers. So by us starting our own creative advertising course, it's free to enter. It's also paid. So it means people who wouldn't usually come into advertising are, and it's, with a lens on people from diverse backgrounds. So diversity of, sort of gender and ethnicity and social, economical diversity. So we're in our 4th year now. And each year we hire a team at BBH, but it also is for the wider industry. And there's lots of teams who've gone on to get hired at Mother and Lucky Generals and various other agencies.
I guess we have that in common, that we're both driving towards a greater purpose in marketing. I always think with my work, my why, the core of who I am, definitely comes out in my value system comes out in my work. And I think that's why I never feel like I work a day in my life, because it's just driven by my why. Do you feel that?
Yeah. I think it's amazing to hear your story. I think it's so interesting that it's great that you were able to sort of find that platform in order to have that sort of authentic portrayal of yourself and influence lots of other people. So yeah, I guess we both work with brands, and sometimes purpose isn't necessarily part of the brief, but could sort of become the brief. I mean, have you got any examples of things you've done with brands where purpose has been at the heart of it?
Absolutely. I think more and more I'm seeing briefs come in where there is a social element to it. I think maybe because they're coming to me, they see what my personal brand does and what my value system is. So a lot of the kind of brief is, would you create a bit of content and on the side also consult with us? So it's like twofold now, which I think is brilliant. Also, I guess like really pushing the diversity, equity and inclusion message, in that I was the first ever blind person to appear on a Panzen ad to be a model, commercial model for them. But I think for me, what was really important about that is that it wasn't just tokenism. You know, I was on everybody's screens for 2 adverts, but I was able to really understand what my community needed because I'm part of that community, and consult with the P&G team and the brilliant disability lead, Sam Latif. We both are blind ourselves, and we're able to put codes that you can scan with an app called Navalens. Navalens codes onto Pantene bottles, and I remember standing in their warehouse for the first time, I was like crying because after 9 years of being blind, I could finally understand like what the price of shampoo was or what the ingredients within it. And Sam always says, Lou, I always use that to show people how pain. I'm like, cheers. But, you know, I think it matters, you know, like I was so emotional that happened and I was the face of it. But, you know, still only 4% of TV ads have people with disabilities on them. And we've just got a long way to go. But I think that I was really excited to be part of that. And I think it did send a shockwave to the industry to say, like, look, we can be in campaigns. You can look outside the box, I guess, of like traditional marketing. And, you know, it was about the way I felt about my hair, not the way it looked.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I think that really resonates. I mean, we've done some work. It's about a year ago, but with brand Girl versus Cancer, and it was sort of all about busting the taboos around sex and cancer. They're not sort of two words you usually hear together, and we wanted to change that. And it was based off a stat that seems like 60% of women who experience cancer or have had cancer experience some sort of sexual dysfunction, but it's just not talked about, you know, by doctors or anything like that. So we wanted to do a campaign that was really provocative and, yeah, I guess sort of impossible to ignore. And we made these billboards that had a big line across it that's like, cancer won't be the last thing that fucks me. And an image behind that was a really beautifully shot photograph of like a woman's body and a woman who has experienced cancer or had cancer in the past. And we also made some films, which each one featured a woman with her different story. It was very real and raw, kind of talking about, you know, her experience, and then ending with that line, which was, it just felt very defiant and sexy. And these women were like taking back their pleasure, and I think for that community, it was amazing. And they were like, you know, we want to go and stand in front of that billboard and get our picture taken. And I think it was, great to be a part of that and really talk to that community. And the lady Lauren Mahon, who is the founder of that charity Girl versus Cancer, her story is there's sort of similarities, I guess, with you a bit, in as much as she was quite young when she got cancer. I think she was 31, and saw, you know, when she was trying to find answers or look at things online, you know, everyone's a lot older and wasn't anything that she kind of resonated with. So she started a blog, just talking about her experience in her very like open and candid, and she's very funny and very charming, and that resonated with people. And then the blog became like a community, which then became like a fully fledged charity.
I think that's so poignant, isn't it? When from proper, true, authentic people and stories, they make the most impact. I love that. I think also the fact that we can take back control of our why and just be like, well, did this happen to us? But we're still us, and with, you know, people with illnesses or disabilities, it can get quite bleak in your mind. You just feel like, yeah, it's me. So I think that it's super cool.
And I think you were sort of saying with how people with disabilities are shown, often, I think in the past in ads, it's just being reduced to their disability. But if you can do it in a much more multi-dimensional, multifaceted way, then it's much more authentic and powerful.
I think there is definitely a wave of that, and marketing is steering towards that and seeing the value of it, especially with like TikTok campaigns. I always say, and I think this was drilled into me from the start, like make TikTok not ads. And because I've always done that, and I've always thought, oh, what's the first 3 seconds? And I kind of developed my like, how does a blind girl? And people are like, oh my gosh, that blind girl shouting us again. But it's like, it's the way where, I say it in the exact same way every time. And I think also that subliminal messaging with ads as well it's just there. It's like, oh yeah, well, there's a blind girl on video. What? Like, this is just awful, but it is now. And I think it's those cultural moments, isn't it? So I remember the only way to really create my personal brand a few years ago was after, I did the traditional broadcast media route. I was like, well, I want to commission myself. I want to commission my own ideas. And, the platform that believed in me and that actually grew me as a human and as a brand was TikTok. And I think that really made me believe in myself. That I could do it, and that, I was actually, a person that was capable to create really cool content. And then I suddenly became an editor and a producer and all of these different things. I wore so many hats, and it's just so cool that we can do that. What's your experience with TikTok, with campaigns, and what have you found basically? Kind of work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing. I think TikTok is a brilliant platform for people to have a voice, and your evidence of that, and obviously lots of other people. I think like it is a real social connector and allow people to kind of like I say, have a voice, but also for other people to see that and for them to feel seen, I guess, and then also for lots of other people to see a different side of disability that they wouldn't have had the option to do that before. I mean, I think like my experience with TikTok with like campaigns and stuff is, I think you always want to do something that's very native to the platform. Like it works very differently from like traditional media and TV and stuff like that. I think you always want to do something that's going to engage that community. I mean, we did a thing for Tesco, which was really fun, which was a voice of the checkout, where we took the duet feature of TikTok. And it was all about auditioning for that next voice of the checkout, and you go to the checkout at Tesco and it says club card accepted.
There is a hidden purpose in everything that we do. And I think the more that I chat to people like yourself, Helen, and just get the ad campaigns that I do in my inbox, it's like, well, we can make everything that we do like purpose driven. It doesn't have to be like one or the other, duality or not. And I think, I don't know, the briefs, when they're more prescriptive, you feel a bit like tied down. So I often have to go back to the brand and say, look, I think since the wave of TikTok, the authenticity, me being myself and like knowing my audience is what the brands come to me for and to yourself for, and knowing that like, we don't have to do this like prescriptive script that you've given me. Like, let's open it up a little bit, and having the confidence to say that. I think TikTok gave me that because I don't know. I think the wave of authenticity, you can't stick to a script on TikTok. You have to just be yourself.
Yeah.
People just like, bye, swipe away. And I think brands are really tuning into that.
It'd be great to hear from you a bit about like how you build communities on TikTok. Like what sort of things do you use at your disposal in order to like break down barriers and talk to people? Like, do you use humor, or what's kind of like the tone you take in order to connect with the audience?
I think you've got to use humor. I think at the very core of my being, I'm such a positive, happy person. I always think, if I didn't tackle this with humor, then it would be a disservice to how happy and playful and full of joy my life actually is now. And I think when you go through a diagnosis, it's so hard to think about the other side. I used to think about losing my eyesight, and I eventually did at 17. I used to think, what's my life going to be like? I don't think I'm going to have an enjoyable life. And I think just to show that it is, and to demystify those stereotypes. And, we don't get taught about blindness at our education, settings at schools or, in our workplaces. So I think tackling hard topics with humour allows people to just understand, even if you're not in that minority group, well, actually, we're just all human and we're all just like on this rock that's spinning around the sun. And I think that's it, really. I think in terms of community, it's always about engagement, like really understanding what they need. I started to grow my TikTok back in the early days in 2020 with just replying to people's comments, like understanding where they're at a level and knowing that, the simplest of questions that I knew the answers to because I was living it, they didn't know. They didn't know how I was going to pour a cup of tea, and being humble enough to be like, well, that's a really simple question. And why are people asking that? You can get quite irritated. And, rightly or wrongly, I think I just saw the whole, the fact that I knew nothing about disability until I became a disabled person myself. So I was just like, well, I don't know that. They had to learn on the job too. So, like eventually making jokes about that and do like expectation versus reality, where it's like people expect me to pour it all over myself. So I'd have like this shocking clip of like me doing something, and it got stitched a lot. And it's just fun,
Yeah, I think it's a misconception that doing stuff like purposeful work or saying something with meaning that you have to do it in a serious way. I think comedy is a great way of, like, it's a great leveler and for people to, sort of connect and break down barriers. I mean, I've sort of found it definitely like in advertising when, obviously sometimes you do want to do something that's hard hitting or, very serious or very emotional, but sometimes you just, think, oh, one way of doing it and engaging with people is through comedy. We did a campaign for Wild. I don't know if you're aware of them. They're like a natural cosmetics brand, and their whole mission is to like get rid of all the plastic in the bathroom. So all of their products like have no plastic and they're sustainable and all of that stuff. So we did a campaign for the natural deodorant, and it sort of featured a 7-foot taxidermied polar bear who talks dirty with his human girlfriend. But it was, it was quite out there. But I think, you don't have to be worthy or serious when you talk about stuff with purpose.
Totally with you. I think, I know this is slightly changing gear, but also the fact that I was the face of blind Barbie and that she had heels on.
Yeah.
So like, what? You didn't use heels when you decided to use her? Or I think there's those unexpected things about campaigns that you do that people are a bit thrown off by, but it creates the messaging that you want.
The kind of thing that sticks in their mind and is memorable.
Yeah.
I think like how the media portrays people with disabilities, it's so important because it molds the public's perception. And like too often it has been very one-dimensional and like stereotypical, and that then obviously molds how people, how other people see them. I mean, I say even with like gender, I think like 70% of ads now feature women, but only 4% are of them in aspirational roles. So it's like no wonder that like 9 out of 10 people think that hold like fundamental biases and think that men make better politicians than women, or better doctors or business executives. So it's like a similar thing with disabilities. The more you show them in these multidimensional or just normal people, then the more everyone's going to be accepted and have better representation.
And we have quite in our industry, a massive weight on our shoulders in a good way if we're willing to take on that, which I think both of us ladies are, that, we can change the trajectory of how people see themselves. I didn't see myself represented at all on telly, and I just thought, oh, well, I'm not going to amount to anything then. And I had to G myself up and like, I will apply for a job at the BBC actually, and I will post that TikTok. And it was very much like core inner strength and also very supportive family. But like, who was telling me to do that? Not anyone, that no one looked like me. So
Yeah.
I guess it's just to say to everyone out there that like creating these briefs are for the next generation to show that they can amount to something, and they can be powerful women and are doctors and disabled too.
So Lucy, can you tell me a bit more about the beauty brand that you're making with Estee Lauder and TikTok?
Yeah,
amazing. I just want to hear more.
It's super cool. So it's my own brand, and TikTok and Estee Lauder are investing. It's a seed investment at this point, but it's a beauty brand that includes the 1.3 billion disabled people worldwide. But not only that, I think it's going to be about universal design elements and universality at its core. It's about packaging, product, and concept all being accessible to a massive audience that is traditionally overlooked. As we've said, there's £8 trillion dollars in the purple pound, which means that there's a lot of money that is overlooked, and I want to target that audience. And TikTok are boosting my posts. They're helping me. The global team is helping me put together a campaign strategy, and it's going to be crazy. I'm really excited.
So how's it going to work with you actually making the makeup? Like, is it a whole range? Like, how's your tastes and things? How are you going to do it differently? And
okay, so because I consult with brands every day, I've got such a massive list of like what I would do and all of the things I guess that I haven't necessarily been able to do in other brands because there's a lot of red tape and things. And doing that for 3 years, it's just going to be all of my dreams coming true. I think ultimately it's about developing that first project. As I said, that I've been thinking about this in my brain for like 10 years, but we are very much a seed. So it's working with factories. I don't know whether they've ever worked with a blind founder before, educating them on, not just being able to send me pictures of what they're meaning. I'm needing to probably go and fly and meet them, understand, all of the different packaging needs that my consumer will have, but also focus groups. I am one person with one disability, and if I'm going to cater for everybody, it's about having multiple voices. And the saying "nothing about us without us" is so important and runs true within this, is that I want other people to be fronting the campaigns who look like me but also who don't. And I think the diverse voice and opening this up and like understanding that I've never been a CEO of this type of business before. I'm a social media CEO, but I'm not, I haven't done this. And I think opening myself up and saying like, look, I've never done this before, what expertise can I get? I think this is where like TikTok and Estee Lauder are really going to help me. So
and it sounds like an amazing opportunity, like you say, to also to do something for people who might be blind or have visual impairments, but also other disabilities, and then also good for the environment and sustainable and not plastic and all of those things. I don't think beauty products really exist like that.
No, I don't think so. I haven't seen it. But also Etia at its core, the word derives from Lampetia, which is a goddess of light, and it means also to shine from within. And I felt like I didn't really have something that was with me that would allow my inner self to truly shine. And I think all of us can relate to that. We're all going through something, maybe our loved one is poorly, or we don't feel ourselves that day, or it could just be as simple as like we just don't feel like our hair is resting the way that we want it to that morning. But we all have bad days, but we all want something to make us feel good. And that's the core of it, really.
And so makeup and beauty and hair products and all of that stuff has such an origin on like people's self-esteem and stuff like that.
I think I've really worked on myself across the years of like understanding that I don't need a mirror to validate me like as a person. I always thought like, seeing your reflection, like that is the ultimate in like, as long as you look good, you feel good. And I felt like makeup for me, I re-evaluated why I liked it, and it was about the feeling that it gave me and all of these different things that I could control my look because I was applying it myself in a certain way. But you know, the amount of braille labels and hours I've spent in front of the mirror because like things all just feel the same. I just didn't want people to go through that again like I did. So yeah, it's yeah, we're targeting disabled people, but just understanding that all people are people. And yeah, we want it to go wider. We don't want to look clunky. We want to look demure, darling. So
Also, people with disabilities being part of the creative process is really important. So I guess not just being in front of the camera, but also behind the camera and being collaborating and being part of that whole production.
Exactly. I think retrofitting, I always say this to companies and brands, like if you try and retrofit and go backwards on yourself and don't think about it, I guess, from the start, it's a lot harder to implement. It's not impossible, but I think, the most successful campaigns that I've thought about or been involved with is when you see like a really cool disabled person leading it, and then also and then a different disabled person fronting it. I think, and obviously that it's very obviously relatable to other minority groups as well. But yeah, nothing about us without us. That's what we always say.
Yeah, and I think agencies and brands are getting better at that representation, but it's kind of not enough at the moment and not moving quickly enough.
True, and then the need, I guess, like I'm constantly doing presentations that are like $8 trillion is the purple pound, and this many disabled consumers out there, like tap into them. And there's a staggering stat that like over 90% of people like click away from websites because they're inaccessible. And I think, as you say, we've got a long way to go. Do you see briefs like that on your end? Because I'm seeing a lot more like ad agencies as well that push like accessible briefs. So like coming to me and saying, Lucy, can you read this brief that we're sending you? Like, is it all texted? Like, is it audio described? And agencies kind of moving forward with that. Are you seeing on your end?
Yeah, I think again, they're more so, but probably not enough. I mean, we've definitely done stuff in the past where we've, collaborated and consulted with, people who have, that lived experience of who we want to talk to. Yeah, we've done some stuff with Ramadan and worked with a company called The Unmistakable, and that's like been massively helpful because, unless you're have that lived experience, it's so hard to know that you're, you want to do it in the right way and talk to the right people and be for that community. So I think it is getting better, but I think we definitely can do more.
What skill do you wish you had and why?
I'd love to be able to speak lots of different languages.
Cool.
Yeah. I was never that good though. I mean, I did do French A level and I got an E, but that was because we could. Our teacher loved Star Trek, and so we realised if we got her on the subject of Star Trek, we wouldn't have to do any learning. But then that wasn't quite good when it came to the actual exam.
I think I wish I could drive, and I know that's not like a vision thing. I think in the future, I'm seeing myself with self-driving cars, and I can imagine Molly's little ears in the back,
like, head out the window.
So I think that, but I should know. I think also I wish I could sing.
I wish I could sing. That's a good one. Yeah.
Purposeful creativity means having your why, sticking to it, and understanding authenticity wins.
Giving meaning to work, and I think like we don't live in a bubble. We have an impact on the world that we live in, so that might as well be a purposeful and a positive impact. What advice would I give to brands trying to be purposeful? Just do it.
I think people are really scared often to be inclusive and understand what true diversity, equity, inclusion means. But I think until you speak to someone who has lived experience, you don't necessarily know. But also, it's okay to get things wrong. It's okay to ask silly questions, because in your mind, it may not be as silly as you think it is.
I think, as well as it being the right thing to do, it is it will make them money. They're missing out currently on a huge loyal consumer base. So I think, it's imperative that brands do purposeful work that talks to lots of underrepresented communities, so that they grow and so they stay culturally relevant.